Have you ever wondered where exactly you stand when it comes to money? Maybe you've scrolled through Instagram and seen people showing off their new cars, their designer clothes, or their vacations in places you can't even pronounce. And you thought to yourself, am I poor? Am I middle class? Or am I rich? The truth is most people have absolutely no idea what those words even mean in real numbers. We throw them around all the time. We talk about the rich, the middle, and the poor. But if I asked you to tell me what net worth actually makes someone middle class versus rich, could you answer? Chances are you'd probably guess, and you'd probably be wrong. That's not your fault. We live in a world that deliberately keeps these numbers blurry. Social media shows us one version of wealth, movies show us another, and the reality ends up being something completely different. What I'm about to reveal might shock you, it might comfort you, or it might wake you up in a way that changes how you think about money forever. Because today we're going to uncover the real numbers, the actual net worth that puts you in the poor category, the middle category, or the rich category. And don't think this is just about curiosity. Knowing these numbers can give you a roadmap for your financial future. Imagine trying to lose weight without ever stepping on a scale. Imagine trying to get better grades without knowing the class average. Money works the same way. If you don't know where you stand compared to everyone else, how can you make smart decisions about your spending, saving, and investing? So stay until the end to understand where you stand, and also try to guess it in the comments. Let's start. Before we break down the classes, let's make sure we're on the same page. What exactly is net worth? It's actually very simple. Your net worth is everything you own minus everything you owe. If you add up the value of your house, your car, your investments, your savings, even the stuff in your house like furniture and electronics, and then subtract all your debts like your mortgage, car loans, student loans, and credit cards, the number you're left with is your net worth. For some people that number is positive, for others it's negative, and that number determines where you really stand. Now here's where things get interesting. The Federal Reserve releases data every few years showing the median and average net worth of American households. And those numbers paint a picture that's very different from what most of us imagine. According to the most recent survey, the median American household net worth is about $193,000. That means half of households are below that number and half are above. But the average? Over $1 million. How can the average be 5 times bigger than the median? The answer is simple. A tiny group of people at the very top hold so much money that they pull the average way up. It's like if half the people at a party are shorter than 5'6", but then a few giants walk in at 8 feet tall, suddenly the average height shoots up, even though most people are still normal height. That's exactly how wealth works in America. So now let's walk through the classes, starting at the bottom. And don't be surprised if you find yourself in a different group than you thought. The lower class, sometimes called the poverty class, is made up of people with a net worth between $0 and about $17,000. The median net worth here is around $6,000. Think about that. $6,000. That's less than the cost of a single used car or what some families spend on a vacation. But remember, not everyone in this group is doomed. A 22-year-old with student loans and no assets technically falls in this group, but they might have a high-paying job waiting for them. A divorced parent who just split assets might temporarily fall here too. Net worth can fluctuate with life events. Still, life in this group is tough. People here often live paycheck to paycheck. They don't have emergency savings. They might rely on payday loans or credit cards with sky-high interest rates when unexpected expenses hit. And here's the cruel reality. When you have less money, everything costs more. You can't buy in bulk, you don't qualify for the best interest rates, and you often pay deposits and fees just to get basic services. It's expensive to be poor. Now let's move up a step. The lower middle class. This group has a net worth between about $17,000 and $43,000. The median net worth here sits around $27,000. People in this group often have steady jobs. They might own a modest car, maybe a small house, and perhaps some retirement savings. But they're still vulnerable. One job loss or one medical emergency can wipe them out. They're often stuck in a frustrating place. They make too much to qualify for government help, but not enough to feel safe. Every financial decision has to be made carefully because there's no cushion if things go wrong. Next, we come to what most people imagine when they hear middle class. The true middle class sits with a net worth between about $58,000 and $169,000, with the median at around $145,000. These are the households that have managed to achieve some of the traditional markers of financial stability. They often own a home, have some retirement accounts, maybe take modest vacations and have a little buffer if something goes wrong. But even here, there's a wide range. Someone at the bottom of the middle class might still feel stretched thin, while someone closer to the top might feel relatively comfortable. What unites them is balance. They're not living paycheck to paycheck, but they're also not free from thinking about money. They still have to budget, they still have to plan, and they still worry about things like college tuition, retirement, and medical bills. Now, before we go higher, I want you to pause and think about something. Where do you think rich actually starts? $1 million? 2 million? 10 million? Let me know in the comments, because when I tell you the real numbers, you might be shocked. The upper middle class, also known as the mass affluent, is where things start to get interesting. To be in this group, you need a net worth between about $500,000 and $2 million. This is where people start to feel wealthy, even if they technically aren't considered rich by some definitions. These are the doctors, lawyers, engineers, and successful business owners. They live in nice neighbourhoods, send their kids to good schools, and they can save aggressively for retirement. But here's the funny thing. Many of these people don't actually feel rich at all. Why? Lifestyle inflation. As their incomes grow, so do their expenses. That modest starter home becomes a bigger house. That used car becomes a luxury SUV. Occasional dinners out become fine dining every week. Before they know it, they're earning 2 or 3 times what they used to, but they're still stressed about money. They're what financial planners call Henrys, high earners, not rich yet. And it's a real trap, because they look successful, but they're not building wealth as fast as they could. Now let's step into the group most people dream about, the upper class. This starts around 2.6 million in net worth. And let's be clear, even here there are levels. Someone with 2.6 million is wealthy by any reasonable measure, but they might still be working, still budgeting, still making trade-offs. But cross into the top 1% and the picture changes dramatically. To join that club, you need somewhere between 6 and 12 million, depending on who you ask. And once you're in, your money often makes more money than most people earn in their jobs. But even that isn't the top. The real peak, the top 1/10 of 1%, starts at around 62 million. These are the families with private jets, multiple mansions, and investments in companies you've never even heard of. They have access to private deals, hedge funds, and opportunities that normal people will never see. Their money doesn't just work for them, it builds empires. Now, before you feel too discouraged, let me remind you of something important. These categories aren't permanent. People move between them all the time. A negative net worth in your 20s can turn into millions by your 50s if you make smart choices. A high net worth can vanish if you make reckless ones. What separates those who climb the ladder from those who stay stuck is behaviour. Spending less than you earn, investing consistently, avoiding lifestyle inflation, and seize the opportunities for that moment. For example, one of the biggest opportunities right now is YouTube, which is blowing up every small channel that does things well, as I teach in my free Telegram community with the link below. It's not glamorous, but it works. And here's something else to keep in mind. Geography matters. A $2 million net worth might make you feel like royalty in a small town, but in Manhattan or San Francisco, it might barely cover an apartment and some comfort. In West Virginia, an annual income of $400,000 puts you in the top 1%. In Connecticut, you'd need over $1 million a year just to qualify. Where you live can completely change what rich actually feels like. So now that you know the numbers that define poor, middle, and rich, the real question is this: what do these numbers actually mean for you? Because at the end of the day, it's not just about looking at charts or statistics. It's about how your net worth shapes your daily life, your opportunities, and your future. Think about it this way. Two families can have the exact same net worth, but live completely different realities. A couple in Kansas with a net worth of $600,000 might live in a paid-off house, drive reliable cars, take vacations, and feel genuinely wealthy. Meanwhile, a couple in San Francisco with the same $600,000 might still rent an apartment, feel squeezed by childcare costs, and constantly stress about money. The number might be identical, but the lifestyle is night and day. That's the hidden part of net worth most people forget. It's not just the number itself, it's what that number can buy where you live. And that's where perspective becomes so important. Many people in the upper middle class feel poor, not because they are, but because they're comparing themselves to people even richer than they are. Someone with 2 million might feel comfortable until they spend time with neighbours who have 10 million. Suddenly, they feel behind. But someone with the exact same 2 million, living in a different city, surrounded by people with much less, might feel like a king or queen. Money is numbers, but wealth is perspective. Now let's talk about one of the biggest traps that keeps people from climbing up these wealth categories. Lifestyle inflation. We touched on this earlier, but it deserves more detail because it's one of the most common reasons people never feel rich, no matter how much they earn. Imagine you're making $50,000 a year. You live in a modest apartment, you drive an old car, you eat at home most nights. Then one day, you get a raise to $80,000. What do most people do? They move into a nicer apartment, they buy a new car, they start eating out more often. Suddenly the raise is gone, eaten up by expenses. Then their income grows again, maybe to $150,000. And the same thing happens. The apartment becomes a house. The car becomes luxury. The vacations get more expensive. And still they feel like they're just scraping by. That's lifestyle inflation in action. It's sneaky because it feels like progress, but it traps you. Your income grows, but your wealth doesn't. And that's why so many people with high incomes don't actually feel rich, because they aren't building net worth, they're just building bills. Now here's the flip side. The people who break free of this trap understand that wealth isn't about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. A doctor earning $300,000 but spending $280,000 isn't building nearly as much wealth as a teacher earning $70,000 but saving $15,000 every year. Over time, the saver gets ahead no matter their income. That's the brutal truth about wealth that no one wants to admit. But it's not just lifestyle inflation. Another trap is trying to look rich instead of actually being rich. Social media has created this pressure to show off. Luxury cars, designer clothes, expensive restaurants. People finance these lifestyles with debt, thinking it makes them look successful. But here's the secret. Most of the people flashing wealth online aren't actually wealthy. They're broke with expensive stuff. Meanwhile, many truly rich people live quietly, drive modest cars, and spend far less than they could. They know the secret that others don't. The less you show off, the faster your wealth grows. Let's put it into an example. Imagine two friends, Veronica and Alex. Veronica earns $120,000 a year. She buys a $70,000 SUV on credit. She lives in a big house with a big mortgage, and she takes luxury vacations twice a year, all financed by debt. On paper, she looks rich. But her net worth is barely growing because everything she earns goes to expenses. Alex, on the other hand, also earns $120,000, but he drives a used car, lives in a modest home, and invests $30,000 a year. Fast forward 15 years. Veronica is still stressed, still paying bills, still working hard. Alex, his investments have compounded into millions. He's free, same income, different behaviour, different outcome. That's the power of focusing on net worth, not appearances. Now let's circle back to those categories of wealth, because understanding where you are is just step one. Step two is using that knowledge to plan where you want to go. If you're in the lower class, your priority isn't investing in complex portfolios, it's building stability. Start with an emergency fund, avoid high-interest debt. Focus on increasing income through skills, side hustles, or career moves. It's about getting to a place where you can breathe. If you're in the lower middle class, your challenge is creating margin. You've got some assets, but you're still vulnerable. This is where budgeting, saving, and disciplined investing matter most. Every dollar saved is a step towards security. If you're in the middle class, the focus shifts to growth. You've got stability. Now it's about making your money work harder. Max out retirement accounts, invest in index funds, consider real estate, build multiple income streams. Your goal here is to move from comfortable to truly secure. If you're in the upper middle class, the danger is complacency. You might feel comfortable, but without discipline, lifestyle inflation will eat your progress. This is where strategy matters. Tax planning, smart investing, and avoiding overspending become crucial. You're close to being truly wealthy, but only if you keep control. And if you're in the upper class, your challenge is different. It's preserving wealth. Once you cross a few million, your concern isn't survival, it's sustainability. How do you pass wealth to your children? How do you invest without losing too much to taxes? How do you avoid risky decisions that could wipe out years of progress? Notice how at every level, the game changes. But at every level, the rules are the same. Spend less than you earn. Avoid debt traps. Invest consistently. And protect yourself from lifestyle creep. Do those things long enough and you move up the ladder. Now let me ask you something. Do you actually need to be in the top 1% to feel wealthy? Most people think yes, but the truth is no. Wealth is relative. For many families, reaching upper middle class is enough to live a life of freedom. Imagine having a paid-off house, no debt, retirement accounts fully funded, and enough investments to generate income. That might not make you a billionaire, but it could make you free. And freedom, at the end of the day, is what wealth is really about. Here's something else to consider. Net worth isn't just a number. It's a mirror of your past decisions. Every purchase you've made, every dollar you've saved, every investment you've chosen, all of it adds up to that one number. And that means your future net worth is in your hands, because the decisions you make from this point forward will shape it. And if you're wondering whether it's too late, the answer is no. People build wealth at all ages. Some start young and let compounding work for decades. Others start late but make massive progress by cutting expenses and saving aggressively. Wealth building isn't about when you start, it's about whether you start. Now let's pull this all together. We walked through the classes, we've looked at the traps, we've explored how geography and perspective change what money really means. So where does that leave you? Maybe you're relieved because you're doing better than you thought. Maybe you're shaken because you realised you're not as secure as you believed. Either way, here's the truth. These categories aren't cages, they're snapshots. Where you are today doesn't define where you'll be tomorrow. If you're poor today, you can climb. If you're middle today, you can rise higher. If you're rich today, you can lose it all if you're careless. Money is fluid, and the sooner you stop comparing yourself to everyone else and start focusing on building your own net worth, the sooner you'll feel real progress. So what net worth makes you rich, middle, or poor? The answer is written in the numbers, but the meaning goes deeper than numbers. Poor is when you have no safety net. Middle is when you have stability, but not freedom. Rich is when your money works harder than you do. And beyond that is power, opportunity, and the ability to change not just your own life, but the lives of others. At the end of the day, you don't need to chase someone else's definition of rich. Define it for yourself. For some, it's millions in the bank. For others, it's a paid-off house and time with family. What matters is not the label, but the freedom it brings. Because wealth without freedom isn't really wealth at all. So the next time you wonder where you stand, remember this. Your net worth is just a number, but what you do with it is everything. And that choice, the choice to grow, to save, to invest, to avoid the traps, that choice is always in your hands. And if you really want to climb this ladder of wealth, remember that you have the best opportunity of your life in your hands with YouTube. Think about it. If you've made it this far in the video, it means what I'm explaining to you in my free Telegram community works, right? So join with the link below and let me know where you stand with your net worth. Subscribe to this channel and see you soon. Just a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for educational purposes only. and any results depend on your own decisions and actions.